talk a little bit about other types of AI models. What about images AI models? Which are the best ones? Which one would you recommend? Why are they so interesting?
Yeah. So nowadays, that's kind of like there are three, I would say, three fronts on AI. Well, there's also reinforcement learning, but that's kind of its own thing, right? Um, on the type of data that they operate on. So there's NLP, which I think right now is the most important one. Um, and it's all of these things that we have been describing. There's also image data, and that has been traditionally the AI stronghold in the past, let's say, 10 years, maybe 7, 8 years, right? Like it was always like image classification and stuff like that. And then you have graphs, and maybe we have time, and then we can discuss a little bit about graphs, but that's also a little bit more complicated. So the current, let's say, state of image is image classification. It's kind of a solved problem, more or less. Like we can, with better than human accuracy, see an image and then say, oh, this is a cow. Oh, this is a chair. So that's what we call image classification. And we also have a lot of other tasks around that, like segmentation. So now you know that it's a cow, but you know that the image contains a cow, but how do you know where the cow is? So maybe we can draw a rectangle around the cow, something like that. That is segmentation. Um, and that, I mean, we now I think that has a lot of applications already. Like you see it on industrial anomaly detection, where they have cameras monitoring stuff and they know when something is going wrong because it's different than what they see normally with the image classification. You have it in more like cybersecurity oriented domains. You have it in authentication. Like nowadays, everyone has a phone and it's unlocking their phone with their camera. So that's another type of classification. In this case, authentication. So you have
Mhm.
basically the model learns how your face looks like, and then you can, yeah, every time you actually look at the face, you need a new sample, and then the model will tell you, is this a bell? Is this Carlos? Yes or no? And if it's a bell, it will unlock it. If it's not a bell, it won't unlock it. And actually, that's a pretty cool domain, especially for people in the cybersecurity game, because with authentication, there are types of adversarial attacks. Not nowadays, not that much, but before, where you would like just put some glasses that are designed in a certain way, and then it would fool the face recognition model. And I've seen that happen live, like with the first like systems that were like when Apple had the first version. Like some people in our lab, they had this system where you would put some glasses, and then the model would completely like go bananas, and then you wouldn't know what's going on. Now the models are much more sophisticated because also they have extra information for other sensors. So they're not only looking at the image data, but they're also having some like depth perception. So it's harder to fool the model, but it's definitely possible. Um, so that's the idea of image classification. And again, that has been, as of now, that's not the most exciting topic because we've been doing it pretty good for a while already. But it's kind of what drove the first hype of AI was this competition with ImageNet, that like this first neural networks, AlexNet, ResNet. That yeah, we have AI nowadays being such an important part of our life, if you want to call it that way. Um, that yeah is because of that initial image classification. And the new thing nowadays is kind of like image generation. So the same way GPT was a generative model that can generate text, now we have generative models that can generate images from text. So that combines the both worlds. Actually, you have a model that needs to understand text, so it needs to understand natural language, and you need a model that needs to understand how to map that natural language to an image. And that's what Dall-E is doing. That's what, like, if people knew of before, like some sort of other types of generative were like GANs, like generative adversarial networks, although those were like super hard to train. And now we have way better systems in place. Stable Diffusion, I think, is the latest addition to the game. It was released not that long ago, maybe a month ago, 2 months ago, and it's super super cool. There are some actually some resources that you can check.
Would you
I
like
have
to
here.
share your screen?
Yeah, I can. See. Oh boy. I'm gonna show the whole thing, or can I do just Firefox? Let's do just Firefox.
Don't expose your password.
Can you see the good old Firefox?
Yeah, we can see it. We can see it.
Yeah. So this is an actual. I can I interact in the chat? I don't think so. Maybe I should send this to you somehow. But this is a very recent tutorial that Keras. So Keras, it's a framework that goes on top of TensorFlow. TensorFlow is like kind of like Google's attempt at machine learning. So that's a framework that they have specifically deep learning. And this is a very recent notebook. I actually haven't tried it yet. So this will be my first time trying it. Maybe we can try to like just have stuff running in the background and maybe see if I have a GPU.
We are running a little bit out of time in this call. Would you mind to restart the call so we don't get stuck in the middle of the demo?
So we go to the same call then.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing and I'm gonna leave, and then I'll see you back.
I hope that works.
Back on the other side.
Yeah, man. Okay. Let's get back in. Hey, now you see me twice. Let's see if Apple is joining. So guys, I hope you're enjoying this talk. I'm definitely enjoying it a lot. There is a bunch of things us cybersecurity people, regular cybersecurity people, I guess, doesn't know about artificial intelligence, and I'm very afraid in the future artificial intelligence is going to be doing a lot of important part of our current work. So
intelligence is going to. Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries. So yeah, I hope you're enjoying this talk. Could we continue with this demo, Abel?
Yes. Again, this one. It says that you disable screen sharing.
I need to. But yeah, you can now.
So you guys should be seeing yourselves, I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah. The thing is now with the screen thing, I cannot. Okay, there we go. So this is, I wouldn't call it a demo though, because I didn't design this notebook. And it might take a little bit. So I'm just going to run it on the background here. And then we can see if it works. If not, what I would recommend though, and this is a very general advice, is this place, HuggingFace. So HuggingFace is basically a repository for. I just created an account before, but I haven't uploaded anything. You see, like, yeah, no application file or anything. This is a repository of models in general, and it has like the kind of like the latest state-of-the-art things. For example, you see like GPT-2, because GPT-3 they haven't released it. They commercialize that, but you have like a super cool stuff you can do here with like the models that Google will use or Microsoft will use, and open source. So you have stuff like, yeah, in computer vision, like image classification, what we were saying before, segmentation. Zero-shot image classification is when you try to classify images, but you haven't seen that before. So that's where the zero-shot comes from. Image to image, like a lot of things. You have NLP, like we were saying before. Question answering, translation, anything, even audio. Super cool, like text-to-speech models or like speech-to-text, so voice recognition. So anyways, like this is a very cool thing. And then you also have these things called spaces, and you can host little apps that do something. For example, this one, like someone just built, I guess, another interface on GPT.
So you told me this is like the Heroku for AI.
Yeah, this is kind of like a Heroku of like AI stuff, right? Like you can define these spaces, and I guess that's the equivalent of the dynos in Heroku. And then you can, for example, stable diffusion. Actually, let's try this one. And then you can, just have applications, and you can generate stuff for free, right? So this is very good to test. So you have to showcase your application. You want to do a demo, and then, well, you can either use Colab or or they have very neat integration with their own stuff, with those models that are hosted here. So I don't know, any suggestions maybe in the chat for what we try to generate for this stable diffusion?
I don't know, man. Invent something.
Let's see, I don't know. Carlos with a Mexican hat in the coast.
You just wrote Carlos in a with a Mexican.
Oh, okay, that's even better. Carlos with a Mexican in the coast doing privilege escalation. Right? Does that work? No, that's gonna be too hard. Maybe just having a friendly dinner. Let's see what terrible things this would generate.
Let's see
It's gonna
what
take 30 seconds.
let's see what is a Carlos for this model.
Yeah, probably just a guy with a mustache or something like that. That's gonna be my guess.
So man,
So these are the very small models, right? So that's another thing. These models, they have a huge space of parameters. So sometimes in order to speed things up, they would generate or they would release a smaller version that has less parameters. It doesn't work as good, but like that kind of depends on what you want to use it. Like, I don't think. Okay, so there's a mustache here, so that's
okay, that's interesting. I'm really
yeah,
wondering
but
if
that's again for a model that is not
I mean
the
the
super.
one with the sunglasses looks like a real person.
Yeah, I think well normally you would see that these models they struggle with faces and with text. If you start generating text, like it will like do very very weird stuff. Like sort of for example, if I say like now a billboard or a I don't know a sign that says hello or hello world banana, like in my struggle with actually generating those real like the text, even though it's something that should be way simpler than generating two people having a conversation, smiling in a restaurant, and like it just, for some reason it struggles with this. Again, this is stable with diffusion version 2.1 and probably not even the big one. So maybe they patched that. Maybe this the last time I checked also with Dall-E Mini, that's what would happen, right? Like it would struggle a lot with text. But the good thing about this is that it doesn't have to be necessarily photorealistic stuff. So you see, like there are a lot of people, artists, especially like generating these very cool paintings, or like you see,
Yeah.
Hello World Banana, Hello Hello Wolf, Hello World.
So man, I would like to drive the conversation a little bit to the cybersecurity world,
Yep.
and get your thoughts about a couple of stuff. So you said that obviously we are using facial recognition for authentication, but we
Yep.
also have seen that there are models capable of creating images. Do you see any potential future in where we use AI models to recognize people and we train AI models to bypass authentications?
Yeah, of course. I mean, you don't have to go for the future. Like we can do that now. Um, you can do again the adversarial examples on image data. You can even do like this thing called deep fakes that I guess some people might be familiar with. But the idea is you train a model that kind of like can swap faces, and you also have kind of it's the same idea of some things that you have in these apps, some like Snapchat and stuff like that, where you can just swap the face of someone in a video, so you can very easily impersonate someone else and use it for for authentication as well to try to impersonate someone.
So
The big issue with this is that these types of attacks they work very well on this what we call the problem domain. So when the data it's like digital, so to say, but it's not very clear how to map this to the real world. Because I can like let's say change my face into yours in a video call in a meeting, and that nobody will notice with the systems that we have already in place, right? But it's not the same thing if I want to do that in the real world. Like I can't. So and that is kind of the same for like authentication, like we were saying before on the phones. Like you need to come up with some sort of physical device that enables you to do that. And those were the glasses, but at some point, these things start to be very, very complicated. So for example, one cool example is, and that's more or less what I wanted to drive the demo to, is on self-driving, like self-driving cars.
Mm-hmm.
They have specific models that will recognize traffic signs, traffic signals. So some people have proven that you can print specific stickers that you overlap in the traffic signs that would allow you to fool a model into believing that that traffic sign is something else. Like, for example, if it's a do not pass or a stop, you can turn into a 120 speed and the car would accelerate just by putting a specific sticker that has been designed a certain way. The problem is, even if you can modify the real world, you don't have that many guarantees, because now there are a lot of other factors into play, right, for the AI. Because in the real world, like, you don't always have like this perfect image with perfect lighting, or you don't have the same angle every time, or you don't have, a lot of things can happen that will make these attacks harder. The good thing, though, for the attackers, I guess, is that you only need to succeed once.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't need to come up with something that works 100% of the time. It just needs to work once. And yeah, I guess that's the key. That's why it's very hard to defend against this, because even though it's not very feasible to do it in practice, if you manage to do it and it works 1% of the time, that's enough. That's enough to mess up with these super critical applications.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see a real physical problem in there. But
Yeah,
to be honest, something that usually this doesn't take into account, let me change. Artificial
yeah.
intelligence doesn't need to be perfect to be better than a human. We all have lived situations where someone hasn't seen, I don't know, a stop signal and some traffic signal, something bad had happened. So actually, in order for artificial intelligence to be useful, it just needs to improve human
It just needs to be
capabilities.
better than human.
Yeah.
I tend to agree on that, but the problem is that we don't expect the thing to behave like that. We expect the thing to be better than human, or not to fail, like, never. And the thing is, those are the stakes are high, right? Like, from a regulatory perspective, they're not going to approve these things unless they work very, very well. And then I guess it's harder to fool a human, and it's way easier to fool an AI.
Well, we have just seen that with ChatGPT saying, "Hey, imagine you are a
Yeah,
free
exactly.
AI."
So now, yeah, the AI works better, but it's super naive. So it's way, way easier to fool it. And until we solve that issue, so we're not gonna see super widespread adoption of these things. Um, but no, I agree. I agree. Like, sometimes we just are unfair, and we compare it. It has to be perfect when we're not perfect. And in a lot of domains, the AI is way better than us. For example, in image classification, I think
if
the average human will be right 95% of the time, and the AI 98 or something like that. So it's better.
if artificial intelligence is better in image classification than humans, why I am still losing tens of minutes every day solving fucking captchas? Because
Because actually, remember those adversarial examples? What do you think they're showing to you in those captchas? Why are they always like noisy and, like, super clunky?
yeah, but
Because those
if
examples that have been designed to bypass automatic classification using an AI.
so they are using
And
an adversarial image inside those captchas already.
I would say, yeah, probably that's what they're doing. Because for them, they don't want you to use an automatic system to bypass a captcha. That's kind of the purpose of the captcha. That's the whole idea. So yeah, having that adversarial noise in there, some sort of way to avoid, like, the AI, it's a system in place. The thing is, this is an arms race, though. Like, when you see that noise, you can train something that removes the noise, and then they can. Yeah, it's an escalation. But I see that they're migrating now to other types of um, identification of bots, because of these things are not as secure anymore. Like, we had the first captchas that they had this text, and they were kind of difficult at the beginning, but then we could solve it. Now we have the
Yeah.
images and select the fire hoses, but they are removing those because now we're starting to have systems in place that can fool that. And now they're migrating to, I think, Captcha, the version 3 is just purely behaviorometric focus. So it's based on some information that they collect about the context, like how are you moving your mouse, how are you interacting with the screen,
That's
and even
that.
that we can bypass.
That's actually great because you lose less time with that. But it has happened to
Yeah,
me that for some reason it believed I was a bot, and man, I couldn't get inside the web page. Like, and you
they
literally cannot do
one
anything.
indeed, but you know what? Like they do that sometimes in purpose. They like these systems, they're designed not to work 100% of the time. So sometimes, even if they know you're a human, they would throw you the bot signal, and even if they know you're a bot, they will let you pass. Why? So you cannot train a system that learns to reverse engineer what they do. So they're trying to obfuscate what the logic, what the decision logic that they have is. So yeah, it doesn't work all the time. So that's how they mess up with these automatic systems,
So they
which
are
is a pretty
protecting themselves for for an AI reverse engineering attack.
yes, which is not that hard to do. A colleague of mine, he trained a reinforcement learning agent that can control mouse and keystrokes, and then he evaluated on several websites to see if he could bypass the captcha. And some like simple model for how you move your mouse, like something that's called a Bezier curve, which is basically just you do a curve and you control the speed and the acceleration of the mouse, and then you have some keystrokes. That was enough to bypass like the captcha version 3 like 80% of the time, something like that.
Okay.
So yeah, like in the future, if you want to try to bypass captcha and automatize stuff, it might be as simple as having some web driver or something that just moves the mouse a little bit in a certain way, and a reinforcement learning agent controlling that, and then yeah, you're done. You're good.
Well, that's a problem for the internet, definitely. They are not
Yeah,
going to be able to decide if something is a bot or not.
indeed. But if you think about it, like this is it might be possible, but it's kind of not everybody has the means and the knowledge to do it. That's number one.
Not yet, not yet.
Not yet, yeah, of course. And number two is if it starts becoming expensive, because the idea of the captcha is not to detect when you have one bot running, it's when you're trying to do millions, right? And like something at big scale. You cannot do this at a scale, at least now. So they don't have that problem yet. So I guess that's what they're not super worried about. And then it's going to be maybe a captcha version 4 that now they use some sort of crazy. Yeah.
So, so in regular captchas with images, you know that there are companies that you can pay that will solve the captcha for you at the moment. So you can bypass this and you can have your bot. Obviously, if you don't have images to view, you cannot send an image or an interaction something to the guy that is solving that captcha. So
Yeah.
will captcha version 3 and this kind of captchas end with this type of companies because now you don't have anything to give them?
Yeah, indeed. Because now, so there are two types of this checks to test if you're a bot. Number one is they present you with some sort of challenge, and that's what the previous captchas were. You have the challenge of you have to see in this image when is the bridge or what is a vehicle, blah blah blah. So that's a challenge, and then you kind of source that challenge. You can give that challenge to someone else and tell them, "Hey, can you solve this for me? I'll pay you," and then fantastic. But these other ones are like behavior metric based, so they're based on your behavior. So you cannot off-source your behavior because then that's you're not you anymore. So there's no challenge to solve. You just have to prove that you're a human because you've been browsing these websites and they can know where you're coming from and they're seeing how you move the mouse. So there's no challenge to solve. So I think that would definitely will be very hard for those companies to to find a way to keep their business model with these type of things in place.